Our movie begins at a party on a large ship, and everyone on the ship is happy and enjoying their time. Meanwhile, a little girl named Kitty feels bored because she's sitting alone with her word game that she's playing with until the ship's captain comes to her and offers to dance with her at the party. The inside of the ship is beautiful, and everyone is dancing until someone turns on a certain machine and it starts to pull a very thin wire that is wrapped around the head, and as soon as the machine pulls quickly, this wire passes through all the people who are dancing and kills them instantly. Because of its sharpness, it splits them in half, either cutting their heads or bodies, and all the guests start falling one after the other. No one is left standing except the captain and Katie. Katie remains the only one alive because she is a small child and the wire passes over her head. However, it reaches the captain's head and splits it in two right in front of the girl, leaving her screaming in terror at what she is witnessing. Time passes, and we move to a maritime rescue team whose mission is to save ships that have sunk at sea. Their leader is named Murph, and he guides them in case they face any danger or problems. The entire team is trying to rescue a sunken ship, but its weight is too great, and they are unable to tow it with their ship. Murph orders them to abandon the derelict ship because if it sinks, it will easily drag them all down with it. However, one team member named Maureen refuses to leave the ship. It will sink after 3 months of attempts to rescue and recover it from the seabed. She reads to herself and decides to go to the ship, and she reads to herself and decides to go to the ship, and reads to herself again, and she decides to go to the ship. And she discovers the reason for its increased weight. When she enters, she finds a large crack that is leaking water inside, which is the reason for its gradual weight increase. She decides that she and Manda and Doji, who are with her, should leave the ship immediately. However, she cleans the ship and starts to seal the existing crack, and her colleague follows her to help. They are the reason the ship doesn't sink, and they return safely to the port and sell it for a large amount as well. The whole team goes to celebrate the achievement they made. A man named Jack approaches them and asks to speak with Morven privately about work. Morven tells him that those sitting with him are his team, and if he has something to say, he should say it in front of all of them. Jack then introduces himself and says that he has been working on a patrol plane over the Gulf for a month. He saw a large ship that suddenly appeared in the ocean and tried to contact it via radio but received no response. The ship is in international waters, so the Coast Guard has no control over it, and it is far from the usual shipping routes. He was going to ignore the matter until he saw the ship again 2 days ago, drifting in the sea without direction, and confirmed that it was abandoned. He came to offer them the opportunity to salvage it in exchange for 20% of its sale value, whatever the price may be. Morven asks him to leave them for a while so they can discuss it, and Beard presents the matter to them, asking if they should investigate it. It might be worthless and unnecessary, or it could be worth millions. Since they just returned from the sea, each person's share in the journey will be equal because he intends to seize this opportunity. However, if they refuse, Jack will then contact another team and forget about them. Greer's mail is the most opposed because his wedding is exactly a month away, and sailing to the ship might take a week on its own. But after a lot of consultations among them, the whole team agrees to seize this opportunity and head to the ship's location. Morpheus calls out to Jack and tells him that his share will be 10, not 20, and Jack agrees on the condition that he also goes with them to the abandoned ship. They all agree and start their journey, spending days at sea. Santos, who is controlling the boat, notices that the ship is getting closer to them because he sees it on the ship's radar. Morph calls out and tells them to come immediately, but at that moment the ship disappears from the radar. He is sure he saw it, but it vanished suddenly. The ship appears in front of their vessel, and Santos tries to avoid it, succeeding at the last moment before their ship is destroyed. Morph is shocked when he sees it because he recognizes the ship and tells his team that this ship supposedly disappeared in 1962, and since then, no one knows what happened to it or where it vanished because it disappeared without any distress signal. Every captain and sailor has been searching for it, but no one has found it. According to the sailor's law, the ship became theirs because they found it after it had been missing for 40 years. A part of the team boards the ship to ensure it is intact and can be sailed, as the rust might have eaten through the entire structure. They move very cautiously on the ship because they are unsure of the stability of the ground they are walking on. They enter the ship's hulls and find a clock that is still working. As soon as it stops, it rings loudly, startling everyone. They continue walking around the place, and the word game that was with Katie appears on a table, moving on its own. It spells out, "Welcome aboard the ship." Murph tells them that the ship once had 600 passengers from Europe's elite, and the crew consisted of 500 members. Greer is on the rescue ship, and they try to communicate with Murph, but the signal keeps cutting out. There is no way to reach them, and the rest of the team continues walking through the ship until they enter a corridor where Manda falls. But Morn catches him before he falls and holds on tightly. At that moment, Morn notices the little girl, Katie, standing in front of her and looking at her. Despite 40 years having passed, Katie hasn't aged a day and looks exactly the same. Then she suddenly disappears, and the rest of the team tries to pull Manda up before he falls and gets hurt. Morn remains in disbelief that she saw the child in front of her on a ship like this, and they all continue walking up to the captain's cabin to check the logs, and Dot takes a watch from a digital clock in the cabin. He tells them, that in 1962 there were no digital clocks yet, and they realized that someone before them tried to take over the ship and failed for an unknown reason. They inform Morph that they will return to their ship to sleep, and in the morning they will tow this ship with them. The whole team gathers and asks Morph how the ship ended up in this location. He tells them that there was once a ship loaded with cotton that was heading, and after 2 months of the ship's departure, it appeared in Tripoli. When the sailors saw it and boarded the ship, they found no one on board. No crew, no captain. It had been 60 days and traveled 6,800 kilometers without anyone controlling it, as if a ghost was steering it, and then it disappeared. There is no evidence of what happened to the ship in front of them. After they finish talking, everyone goes to sleep until the next day comes. The team is able to discover the damage on the ship, which is a large crack in the hull inside the ship itself, and it has a short time before it sinks. They decide that they must repair it as quickly as possible with the resources they have, and none of them report it now until they fix it and can move it to prove their ownership of it. This way, no one knows their location. The entire team boards the ship except for Santos, who stays on the cruise ship alone to fix its engine and prepare it to tow the big ship behind them. Morph assigns each of them a task on the ship to get things done while moving. Marine moves around until she reaches the bathroom. She notices that there are bullet holes in the wall, so she gets into the swimming pool and tries to understand what happened there. When she leaves the place, she finds Kitty standing in front of her, which startles Maureen, and she falls on her back. From the impact, she injures her head and blood drips onto the ground, but it is immediately absorbed into the cracks. Jack appears in front of Maureen to ask her what happened. She tells him that she saw a little girl in front of her who suddenly disappeared. They walk away from the swimming pool, where all the areas start to bleed heavily until it fills with blood and is full of corpses inside. They both continue walking until they reach the ship's laundry room. Maureen opens a door in front of her to make sure there is no water behind it, but as soon as she opens the door, water bursts out at them. There are many corpses in it, and the bodies have been there for a month or less. It's not clear who they are. At that moment, the door Maureen and Jack came through closes, and another door opens for them, as if the ship is forcing them to follow a certain path until they reach a room with an old parked car. Jack goes towards it, amazed by it, because it's worth millions now. Maureen says that they need to leave this ship immediately and not stay any longer. And before they leave the car side, they notice something moving inside a box next to them. When they open the box, they find that it's an oven, and underneath it, there are a lot of gold bars. Maureen quickly searches for a lever and the others to show them the gold she found. She hears a voice calling her from the kitchen fridge, so she goes in to find out where the sound is coming from. Suddenly, she finds two ghosts attacking and scaring her, but it turns out to be Mandar and Dodo playing a prank on her. Maureen gathers everyone to show them the gold boxes they found. Mervyn says the gold alone is worth $200 or $300 million, not to mention the value of the ship and its contents. They are all happy, except for Greer, who is the only one afraid and tells them that what happened to the ship might be because of this gold. Besides, the bodies on the ship, which are less than a month old, confirm to them that this ship is cursed or haunted. Moreover, he heard the voice of a singer in the ballroom and was sure the sound was real. After thinking it over, they all decide to take only the gold and leave the ship. They start loading the gold onto their ship and prepare the ship to set sail. At that moment, Kitty appears on the deck of the ship and tries to stop them, and she sees Mary in front of her. At the same time, the gas cylinder in the cabin with Santos opens by itself. As soon as the engine starts, it creates a spark and sets the entire ship on fire, causing it to explode. Jarir and Munter are thrown far away from it. Santos dies because of the explosion. They all return again to the abandoned ship, not knowing how to act after losing their colleague Santos. Murphy blames himself for Santos' death and can't bear everything that happened. He tells them that they are the reason for what happened to them, because of their greed and stupidity. If they had informed the Coast Guard, there would have at least been hope that someone would come to search for them. But now they are lost in the unknown, and each of them goes to sit alone until they find a solution. Murphy goes to the captain's cabin and finds whiskey there, which he starts drinking. Maureen goes to the ship's guest records to look for any young girl who might have been on the ship. Fortunately for her, there are very few children, and she is able to identify Kitty's room and learns that she was traveling alone on the trip. Greer goes to sit in the ballroom and starts drinking as well, with a sign in front of him for a singer named Francesca. Meanwhile, Dodge and Munder are searching for food in the kitchen and find sealed cans with edible food, so they keep eating until all the food turns into moving worms, which makes them immediately throw it out of their hands. And then Maureen goes to Kitty's room to look for her because she's sure she saw her alive in front of her, but she finds that Kitty has hanged herself, is dead, and has turned into a skeleton in front of her. Maureen tries to remove the necklace the girl is wearing and finds a picture of her family in it. Before she closes the necklace, Kitty's ghost appears behind her and tells her not to close it because she hasn't seen her family in a long time, and they moved to New York and she was going to them through the ship. But her family died a long time ago and she wishes to join them to see them. But she is trapped along with everyone who was on the ship and they can't be freed. She sees the world around her turning into blood, which terrifies her, and she tells Maureen that she must escape from the ship immediately. She suddenly disappears from her place and is sitting in the captain's room. and the captain himself appears before him, giving him a photo album of a sunken ship. He met it on his sailing route and decided to rescue it, finding gold inside and transferring it to his ship, not knowing that the gold was cursed and would destroy his entire ship and turn them into ghosts. Moreover, the entire ship had only one survivor, and he gives him a picture of him. As soon as he sees the picture, he is shocked because he knows the person in the picture. At the same time, he sees Francesca walking in front of him, and she calls out to him. As soon as he approaches her and tries to touch her, he falls into the elevator shaft and descends dead. And Maureen keeps searching for Katie, but she finds her in front of her, reassuring her that she's okay. However, he sees her as if she were the deceased Santos. Instead of seeing her holding a flashlight, he sees her holding a knife, so he attacks her to kill her because he thinks she's someone else. Santos until Jack comes to her rescue from Murphy's grip and hits him in the face with a cylinder, causing him to lose consciousness. He locks the rest of the team inside a tank until he sobers up from his drunken state. They contemplate what they are going to do. They decide to continue repairing the ship because it's their only means of escape. They go down to the bottom of the ship to repair the crack in it. After that, they activate the water pumps to expel the water inside. Maureen goes to look for Greer because he's been missing for a long time until she finds Kitty again. As she follows her, she sees Greer dead in front of her. At that moment, Kitty comes to her and says she wants to show her something important. As soon as she touches her, they return to the time of the ship during its journey. Maureen sees the guests in front of her, enjoying their time, and notices that the ship's crew killed the cooks and put oven poison in the soup for the guests, serving it to the entire ship to kill them. The group that was dancing died from the sharp wire that passed through their bodies and cut them apart. And when she ran to go to her room, she found that the crew was killing those present and weapons were distributed among them, eliminating everyone there. All that happened was because of the gold on board, as the ship's crew was originally a gang planning to steal the gold, and only the gang remained. One of them turned against the others on orders from Francesca, the singer, and killed all his companions as well. Then Francesca pulled out her gun, ready to act because she had agreed with her lover that they would take all the gold. After that, her lover killed her by hanging her from a hook by her neck, finishing her off. At that moment, we discover that her lover is Jack, the one who brought them to the ship in the first place, and that he is behind everything that is happening, and that Jack is actually a ghost responsible for collecting their souls. And Maureen runs to the tank where he is trapped. She finds that the tank is filled with water, and Morph is dead inside, drowned, holding in his hand the picture of the captain. He gave it to him, and Jack is there, and she understands that Jack brought them specifically to fix his ship and start collecting souls again. She quickly goes to Dodge to warn him about Jack, but she doesn't make it in time because Jack is already with Dodge. So she informs Maureen that they should move from the captain's cabin until she finds Munder and brings him back, giving Dodge a rifle to protect himself. When she goes to the place where Munder is, she finds that he has died because the ship's engine started while he was next to it, pulling him in and shredding him. Jack wants to leave Dodge and walk away, but Dodge stops him and they fight until Dodge shoots him with the rifle. Jack pretends to be dead, but the bullet actually didn't affect him. Dodge goes to Maureen to tell her what happened, and he finds her preparing to blow up the ship with everything on it, because the ship cannot reach the port, but Dodge doesn't believe her and tries to stop her from what she's doing, but she remains determined. At that moment, his appearance changes back to Jack's form again. He is impersonating Dodge in hopes of influencing Maureen, but he fails and tells her that he is a demon collecting souls while she collects abandoned ships, and that if she blows up this ship, he won't be affected and will continue collecting souls. Jack tries to throw her into the water and kill her, but she manages to blow up the ship. Jack dies and all the trapped souls on the ship are freed as it sinks. Katie appears to Maureen to help her find a way to escape the ship before she is dragged down with it to the depths. Maureen remains afloat on a box in the sea until she encounters a large ship that rescues her. As soon as they reach the port, an ambulance is waiting for them, and she sees wooden crates, similar to those that contain the gold being loaded onto a new ship. Jack is behind them to continue harvesting souls, and she tries to stop him but doesn't manage to.